ban comes through. So already getting the respect Vega bans as Ejim. Vega support is so respected on this patch 5.3. When we move to 5.4, maybe it'll fall off a little bit, of course, without the instant cast on the event horizon. But maybe it'll still be a top pickup. It's hard to say.
Yeah, we'll see whether that does come through. But of course, for now, it is going to be the respect ban for Chelby's Nidalee here as well. I like that one a lot. Kalista and Lissandra going to hit the bench once more. Pretty standard bans to come down, but of course, focusing on Missouri here with that Kalista ban. That's interesting.
You know, Missouri, again, new to that kind of high-level competitive AD carry role. His champion pool, maybe they just think it's limited. Maybe they think it falls away after the Corki. So maybe they'll even steal away the Corki here for Legacy. It doesn't really seem to fit Taliweka's playstyle. He loves the Graves, he loves the Kalista, he loves the in-your-face burst. But they're banning Kalista on the blue side, so they clearly don't value picking up that Kalista, at least this game.
Yeah, but the Rek'Sai is going to fall down, and that's going to mean Cardred Scion's left up, and we may see some Lumberjack action in the top lane.
Yeah, the insta-lock Scion. Scion top's been... This is over Kassadin, we have to mention. 5.3 Kassadin, so we haven't seen
and
the
Kensty's Kassadin as well.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Riftwalks one, and you made a great... This is probably going to be the mid-lane Kassadin that propelled Kensty to become the first Oceanic player to become a challenger in North America. It still plays a lot of Kassadin now. Definitely his strongest champion. It's a risk to live this open against Avant.
Very dangerous. Chuchu's with an immediate Yasuo hover. We'll see whether that comes through. Taliweka has the option to pick up his Sivir once more. Another time, he is going to be on that more utility-based AD carry. Going to be against a Morgana this time, though, so a few disengage options with that Black Shield. And the lock-in here for Ejim's Leona, and I love this. Get Ejim on a champion that can throw out so many different sources of CC and get fights started. That's what I'm talking about.
And it's confidence to pick that Leona into the Morgana. Could be a Morgana spot, of course, could still be a mid-top lane Morgana. We've seen so much flexible Morgana picks across the board. The thing about Morgana is that you can still use your CC on the target that it has the Black Shield, then just change your focus and go to a secondary target. You still have initiation options, even if it is a Leona versus Morgana support matchup.
Yeah, and you've got that Solar Flare that hits in an AoE as well. You can only save one person with that Black Shield, so we'll see whether Ejim can get them in the right positions, of course. It's a little bit hard to land it. There's a little bit of sort of ramp-up time to actually have that stun come through. But, of course, a lot of trust being put into Ejim. He's a fantastic support player.
And we spent so much time talking about comfort on the advanced side. We're getting some real comfort picks coming through. It's not just Kensty. We see Maz. He's got his mind over that Corki. There'll be a very standard lock-in. A very powerful champion is Corki. The Trinity Force Power Spike. We talk about it every time Corki comes up because it's just so damn powerful.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to be Chelby on the Jarvan here as well, unless that's going to go to Porky in the top side. Haven't seen him play that one, and Chelby, although he hasn't played Jarvan yet in the OPL, in the past, we've seen him go very deep on that champion.
And that's the way he likes to play. We see him in the enemy jungle. We see him playing super aggressively. Even on the Nidalee, he's always trying to just poke around, take every advantage he can get. And he's the one that's really the aggressive person on this team. He's the one that wants to make things happen. And Jarvan, he can make things happen in both good and bad ways. Sometimes he's helping, sometimes he's helping.
Yeah, Jarvan, I'm helping. That's exactly right. We'll see what the answer is going to be from Legacy. They need to pick up a mid laner and, of course, that jungler here as well. Taliwek is hovering over an Udyr pick, which I don't think is going to come through. But Ahri, she's up again. They're going to lock it in, and Udyr is going to be the lock-in here for Carbon.
So, he likes farming.
He likes farming.
We actually just talked about Saint Vicious. He loved farming up on that Udyr, and the farming's not going to stop with the Udyr.
No, definitely not. We'll see whether he goes full Trick 2G with it, picking up both Tiger and Phoenix stance, never leaving the jungle. I don't know whether that will happen because his friends need help on the map. And just don't really know what to expect. Of course, having the On the Hunt plus an Udyr here is fantastic. Of course, one of the things that Udyr struggles with is getting kited a little bit.
Absolutely. So he's going to have that extra burst of movement speed. Scion as well, you know, has so much consistent CC in a fight.
Yeah.
Once he's used his ultimate, popping that On the Hunt, he can actually stay close. He can get the auto attacks and might even see a Frozen Mallet come out from Scion just to add to his bevy of CC and just be so sticky. And then again, it's going to be Ahri and Sivir in the backline doing consistent damage over a fight. But the Udyr, it's such a big question mark. We have to assume it's going to be a jungle Udyr. We have to assume he's going to be trying to get in Chelby's face and counter an aggressive jungler with just the most aggressive dueling jungler you could pick up in the Udyr.
Yeah, but it is going to be a last-minute switch over to the Rumble here for Porky. Porky's Rumble to come down, and again, we're going to see the Jarvan Rumble combo with that Cataclysm Equalizer.
But we did not see that. That was a
I don't know
mouthful.
how that quite worked. Yep.
Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It didn't work out last game, you have to say, the Rumble Jarvan combo. They now even have the Soul Shackles for a bit more lockdown, so perhaps they can get the massive equalizer that Rich Gang could just never claim in the previous game. But this is an Udyr comp, so you have to think there's going to be a lot of strategic play, a lot of rotating around the map, taking camps, getting early push. That was the flavor in the previous game with the Sivir, was rotations and taking turrets. If they can recreate that, stay away from teamfights, even though they've got a good teamfight team, especially in the early game, get a nice gold advantage and just kind of trivialize all the AoE burst coming through from Avant. Legacy should have this in the late game.
Yeah, we'll see whether they do. Of course, I very much like the Corki pickup when you've got this mid-game power spike of the Equalizer Cataclysm combo around that first Dragon fight, because if Misui manages to get, you know, a Fade Sheen by the time that one comes through, he's got a lot more damage potential than you have to think Destiny had in the last fight.
Well, you have to think Avant, they're doubling down on the mid-game. We've got the Rumble for Dragon Control, we've got the Corki for pushing, Trinity Force Power Spike comes through. If they've got a Dragon or two in their pocket, they're going to be so strong in the mid-game. And Legacy, they're more fine-tuned to the late game, but Udyr is the big question mark, because Udyr can get a lot of things done. He can put a jungler so far behind, he duels so well, he moves around the map well, and how they play around this Udyr pick, I think will decide how the early game turns out for Legacy. If they can be super aggressive, hold back the power spikes coming through from Avant, and get the late game just that damn sooner, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, of course. If you guys at home think that Legacy are going to be the victors here, make sure you tweet it out to us. Use that hashtag IamOPL and include hashtag AVWin or hashtag LegacyWin, and let us know exactly what you think, because both of these comps looking dangerous in different ways.
Hashtag LGC win.
LGC.
I think we're going for.
Did Legacy. I say LCG?
I think you said Legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Close enough.
LGC.
We got it on the,
My bad.
We got to confirm now. Hashtag LGC win.
Otherwise, that would have been a mouthful, and you wouldn't have been able to get all of the extra text into your tweets, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is up on your screen, though, of course. You did see that one, so yes, it has been confirmed. Thank you very much, Papa Smithy.
We do have statistics about these things. We have to get them correct.
Yeah, it's true. My goodness, you can't just be tweeting ludicrous things towards no one in particular. But one thing that I want to go back to the game here, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure?
We've got sidetracked just a little bit. Cardred's Scion. He's 100% win rate on it so far. Has been almost immortal. I believe he's 100% win rate if we're having a look. Yes, it is.
And Swiper's 2-0.
Yeah.
Have we seen a Scion lose? I'm gonna guess. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't quite remember, but across those two teams, definitely not.
Yeah, the top teams, they're really favoring these sticky, strong frontline tanks. That's what they want. They want tanks that can get in the middle of a fight, stick with the consistent CC coming through, and just cause havoc in the front. They're not doing big damage. Of course, Scion in laning phase, his wave clear I probably underrate. You just max the E, roar at those minions. If you roar at the minions as they're breaking, kind of like Twisted Fate throwing out his red card in the middle of a minion wave as it's kind of coming into the lane in a line. You do so much AoE wave clear that just with 1 point in your queue, you're just clearing those waves instantly. So you have great damage in terms of clearing minions in the early game. Okay, in the late game, not really about damage, but you have the armor shred on your E. You have so many different types of CC, not even counting your ultimate. You just disrupt so much, and he's so reliable. You know that Scion, whatever happens, is going to show up 4,000 health, with all the armor in the world, and whenever you're an AD carry and he's just Scion locked in, you're like, oh dear. Yeah,
oh dear indeed. So we'll see whether they are going to have the movement. Of course, Tallywacker, Misui though, sorry, he's going to have to be the one worrying about this Scion. He's got the Valkyrie, but of course on a fairly long cooldown, so if Legacy find a way to get rid of that Valkyrie and then use that unstoppable onslaught in order to get Cardred right on top of this Corki, things could get dangerous.
And the issue you have with Corki is it's a Trinity Force use. You're about burst, you're about those excellent trades in the early game, you're about turret damage. You're not about bursting through a Scion. You don't have the hyper carry potential of perhaps a Jinx or a Vayne in the late game. You're not really a tank buster, so you're going to struggle to kill the Scion however ahead is. If he's super overtuned, that'll just be comical. You'll just be sitting there spamming your spells out, watching, just really trying very hard with 3 rotations of Trinity Force procs to kill the shield, which, it's a bit depressing. But
yeah,
that's the reality here, is that who's going to be killing this Scion if he gets going?
Yeah, well, there's the fact that, the only true tank on the side of Avant Garde is going to be Chelby on this Jarvan.
And that was the same story last time that we saw the Rumble-Jarvan combination.
Yeah.
It was the Jarvan as a solo frontline, not even a Lulu to kind of burst him up in terms of health. And look, it didn't work out for Huey. He was 1-7-11, I believe, in the previous game. Just died instantly when he tried to engage. And that's kind of the danger when you're running these one-tank comps, especially from the jungle. you know, unless you get really going, unless you start snowballing and double down on the really early defensive items, you're just going to die on all the AoE.
Yeah, is that going to mean that a lot of the pressure is going to be on Kensti and him really performing on this Kassadin, which he's very comfortable on?
I think to some degree. I mean, Kassadin in the late game, we know how much of a terror is. He's even a frontline initiator to some degree. You can go in there, you know, put the force balls out, AoE slow, Zhonya's. You do act as a frontliner, much like Lissandra, so a lot of pressure comes to him. Again, the big question mark to me is Carbon. If he can hold down Chelby, if he can make him irrelevant, if Jarvan's so far behind that he's basically an ultimate bot and then just dying in the AoE, I think Carbon's done his job.
Yeah, and Carbon on the Udi here as well for the first time that I've ever seen him, but we are going to hop onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for Legacy taking on Avant Garde for the second time here in the OPL. First rematch that we have for our second day. Carbon actually going to start off as a adorable Phoenix here. And Phoenix versus Tiger Stance Udia. Do you have any thoughts on that particular option here at this current state?
I think in solo queue, the Tiger Stance makes a lot of sense because you do those surprising burst trades on your ganks, but I feel like he's going to be more focused about AoE clearing down the waves. We can see he's already skilled Phoenix stance, so that's definitely the best stance for just taking down minions. Of course, you could just get points in both, like you say, and be all-out offensive. It makes you very, very squishy, but he's got a Scion, so going full offense, you know, even maybe recreating the Trinity Force build that he won in the last game, okay, it's probably not going to be the Warrior enchant, just because, again, not too much physical damage coming out of Udia. But just going for a very offensive build is opened up when you have the most reliable of massive tanks like Scion in the top lane.
Yeah, and speaking of Scion, Cardrid's actually just having a stare-off with the Baron wall here. Might actually be discovered from Porky. It has a pink ward in his inventory as well, and we'll see where the Legacy go for any funny business early on.
That's very strange. Of course, Carbon wants to get back. So Cardrid wants to get back and clear a camp. He puts it down.
He's a very large Scion to go unnoticed. Finally just hits Porky on the back, but I mean, Porky didn't even notice him then. Maybe he's invisible.
Cardrid, maybe he's surprised by the lack of lane swap because he will not be able to pick up an early camp because we so often see the Carbon and the Scion walking to the Raptors, dying to that camp, clearing it. You know, you can start with the shield, even get some of the health coming through from the passive on the W and enter lane just happily. But in this game, yeah, no suicide Scion play coming through.
Not going to come through, and Chuchu's actually taking a lot of damage level 1 here from Kensti. Both of these mid laners actually opting for that Flask, so Chuchu's not wanting to go for that Doran's Ring, wants to have some more of this sustain.
I really appreciate Chuchu's respecting the harass coming through from a Kassadin. This is not something we see Chief Swift do. He's happy to take Doran Ring against a Kassadin, as say, for example, the LeBlanc and the LeBlanc vs. Kassadin matchup, and then just count on the fact that Spooks will make an early visit to the mid and justify the early combat stats coming through. You have to respect that Kassadin has a targeted harass spell that gives him magic shield, does ranged magic damage to you. If you just take those 2 potions, you can actually be poked out of lane against a Kassadin. And if that opens up room for Kassadin to farm, if he can build up a CS advantage, we all know what Kassadin's like in the late game.
Yeah, and that isn't to mention the fact that Chuchu's, who's about to get ganked here from Chelby, flashes out of the way from the EQ, but takes a lot of damage for it, and successful gank already here from Chelby.
It's massive that now Chuchu's will have to play more defensively with his flash down, will not be able to get the auto attack harass that much into Kensti. It should open up room for Kensti to farm. And again, the moment you get closer to that Catalyst, closer to that Rod of Ages, closer to late game, we know how crazy Kassadin can be then.
Oh yeah, Cardrid just going to use his abilities to clear out these minions from underneath the turret. And I love that Lumberjack Silent Skin. It's just fantastic. Porky heading down just to get some deep vision here. As that minion going to go wide just a little bit. And how does this lane really work out in the early stages here, Papa?
I mean, Rumble gets a pretty free lane. At Scion, he can put out some pressure. He can push you under turret because, again, he has great pushing. But his kill pressure without strong jungle ganking is pretty minimal. So Rumble, he has a lot of tough matchups. We already saw a tough matchup against Na in the previous game. But against Scion, he'll happily farm. They'll split farm. And it'll just be, will that massive equalizer hit that kind of changes the team fight with just 1 cooldown? Or will it just be the free farm Scion showing up and doing disgusting things?
Yeah, just being a nuisance in these fights. Chuchu's going to have his wave pushing back into Kensti here. You can see he has managed to stretch out that CS lead, but quite a huge minion wave for Kensti to farm up. as he comes through. Of course, things equalizing just a little bit, but having the flash available for this, that's going to be very necessary here as the multiple stuns come through. There's the charm, and first blood for Ejim.
No wards on the bottom side of the map. Completely unsided with his roam. Udi is ganking. You know, we mentioned it before. Very kiteable champion. Has to gap close. So much easier when you've got a Leona in your back pocket.
Yeah, and the Zenith Blade just getting her right in there, able to use that Shield of Daybreak to stun up the targets. And then Bear Stance, you saw Carbon wait for that one. Oh, Zenith Blade going just a little bit wide here. Is Tallywhacker just going to say thank you very much for the mana? Actually, no, I think he sort of missed the spell shield, unfortunately. But are going to be able to continue clearing out this wave. And we've seen this matchup quite a few times here, the Corki into the Sivir, and there are sort of pros and cons for both sides.
Absolutely. I mean, Corki, of course, his main harass tool, his main lane dominance tool is hitting that phosphorus bomb. It has that longer range than, of course, it used to back in the day, so you can reliably hit it. Of course, Sivir, she can gobble up that cooldown with the spell shield, get mana back. Of course, it does leave her open to potentially taking harass from the Dark Binding coming through from Juni. But again, you have a good, safe laning matchup for Sivir.
Yep, Cardred continuing to take some harass here from this Flame Spitter, but just being frustrating on this Scion. Has an ability to clear out this wave just a little bit more. And you said that this was going to be a bit of a farm off, and it looks to be exactly that. Choo Choo's now with a little bit of a level advantage. Still doesn't have level 6, though, as Carbon's coming back round again. But Shelby's here for the counter gank. But in comes Ejim. First off, though, it is going to be Choo Choo's falling down. Avant Garde are going to answer back. Carbon going down incredibly low. The Flame Spitter going to get it. And Porky picks up the kill. Kensti still not level 6. The equalizer there, not really doing all that much for Avant Garde. But Porky gonna be towards this dragon side, and we'll see whether they can put some pressure on.
The 6-minute, 8-member gank in the mid lane coming through. Not sure what league this is for a second there, but so much pressure coming through. The double teleports coming through. The result, however, 2 kills to Avant Garde.
Yeah, Kensti might have to be a little bit careful against Cardred here. He's harassing him back just a little bit with his ranged abilities, but more than happy to clear out some creeps, and he is going to be fine. Kensti heading back to base. Has just hit level 6.
Yeah, but nowhere near finishing his Catalyst. Only was able to pick up the Ruby Crystal. Actually does have the gold to pick it up now. He chose not to back, so he was close to his Catalyst. He really wants that as his first big purchase. But now he's against Choo Choo's freshly itemed up, has the Fiendish Codex, and against a Cassian that just really doesn't want to be there, wants to go back and shop.
Yeah, you can see Legacy as well focusing so much on this vision. 3 vision wards sitting in their back pockets. You can see Choo Choo's went back, got one of those, some sight wards here as well. Lots of consumables, wants to just stay alive in this lane and complement that Fiendish Codex pickup. Boomerang going to find Johnny on the way back as Missouri just continues to clear out this wave. 3 CS advantage here for the Sivir. Not going to be too much of a problem as Shelby's got a level lead, but Carbon still more than happy to go toe-to-toe. Of course, Udyr doesn't really mind about level 6.
Yeah, Udyr's just farming. With the Ruby Crystal, it might actually be the Juggernaut enchant coming through, just for a bit of cost-effective health and tenacity. It opens up other boots choices. As across the map, we see Harass coming through, but no real threatening of kill pressure.
Yeah, Porky level 7 against Cardred's level 6 here. Cardred still managing to hold on to an advantage as far as that CS is concerned. Carbon looking to try and put some pressure onto Porky here, who flashed in that mid lane, you have to remember. Doesn't get hit, but Choo Choo's is here as well. Unstoppable Onslaught's there. Porky just gets charmed and orbed, and he's gonna die. Choo Choo's picking up a nice roam kill.
A Legacy showing that, hey, the easiest way to work around the lack of kill pressure on Carbon's Udyr ganks, always have a mate with you, whether it's the Ahri coming through, but previously it was Ejim. Their map rotation, they're getting so many members unseen into ganking positions. Avant, they need to work on their warding because they are severely being out-rotated by Legacy, though they are starting up the Dragon.
Yeah, they have been seen there, though. As you can see, Ejim hanging about. This Dragon is in full vision of Legacy. They have to go for a Miracle Steal as Udyr trying to find his way in. Ejim's just going to get exploded, though, as Kensti picks up that kill. Orbit Deception, not enough, and Kensti even gets the Dragon. This Cassidy starting to go off. You
saw how close they were from stealing away the Dragon. There was actually no smite available from Shelby. It was a risky Dragon call.
Whoa.
Trying to open up time, Ejim trying to open up time for Choo Choo to get in for the harass. Almost stole away the Dragon, almost picked up some exit kills, but all those almost amount to nothing, and the Dragon is taken by Avant.
Yeah, Avant now storming ahead. They've got a 1,000 gold lead, and with that first Dragon that they've picked up, you know, this Cassidy rolling as well, that is very important. Now with 400 gold lead here in the mid lane, doing quite well. Actually, more closer to a 600 gold lead. No, 400. We're at. Mathematics, not my strong suit, but I managed to get it this time.
And mathematically, he is 400 gold away from a Rod of Ages. So he doesn't really want to shop. He's just happy to kind of chill out in mid lane. Of course, he doesn't want to take any damage trades with Choo-Choo's. Choo-Choo's actually low in mana, so not really a big deal just this second. He just wants to comfortably farm and pick up that Rod of Ages before too long.
Yeah, and Choo-Choo's roaming towards that top side. They did give away a dragon with that one, but keeping Porky down is going to be important here because Cardred wants to get to that unkillable Scion stage and be able to lock down the members of Avant Garde, which is going to be very difficult. What with Black Shields, Kensti being Kassadin, that is just a problem in unto itself. Ejim gets spotted out by Johnny here, just wants to pick up some money with that puddle.
Yeah, everyone except for Johnny has a movement ability, not necessarily a blink, although Kensti and Maz very, very safe on Kassadin and Corki respectively.
Yep.
But plenty of gap close coming up. Going to be difficult to pick up the picks, but maybe with the early pick wards we saw coming through from Legacy, they understand that if they pick up the picks, they really open themselves up to some pretty straightforward team fights.
Yeah, and Tallywhacker as well on his very comfortable Sivir here can just pop that ultimate and get his team into these fights. You can see he's farming up incredibly well, does have that BF sword to complement his early pickaxe purchase. Mizui very close to grabbing that Trinity Force, about 1,600 gold before that one's going to appear. And we'll see whether they make any moves.
Yeah, in general, everyone very on point with their item timings. Kensti very, very close to the Rod of Ages. Will be about a 12-minute Rod of Ages, at least at this point, being picked up. We already see the Juggernaut and the Warrior Enchants being finished by Udyr and Chelby on the Jarvan, respectively. Item timing's very similar across the board. You have to think Avant. They're heading gold. They have a dragon in their pocket. They're feeling very good about the start of this game.
Oh, yeah. But, of course, Carbon throwing them a curveball with this Udyr. We'll see what that plans on doing as we head towards the mid-game portion of this one. Cardred is continuing to farm up here in the top side. You can see Chelby hanging around this mid lane still. They've put a lot of focus onto Choo-Choo's here in the mid lane. But of course, when it's an Ahri who's now got Spirit Rush, that almost seems like a waste of time.
Yeah, Choo-Choo's and Carbon are basically a duo at this point, roaming around the map, trying to look for a pick. Between the two of them, quite a lot of lockdown CC. If you get in range to actually put down that bear stance, has Flash available now. So they do have significant kill pressure as a duo. We haven't mentioned Chelby's name a few times. He's 1-0-2, he's doing fine, but they're looking for the gank on Cardred.
Yeah, does manage to get in here with the EQ combo. Slows him down with the W there as well, blowing the Flash after that Cataclysm comes through. And Cataclysm's like the auto flash tool, isn't it, really?
Unstoppable Onslaught, not that useful running away from Jarvan, so the flash is a very big pickup. We see a repeat gank in the next 5 minutes. They do have significant kill pressure early on in the game against Cardred.
Yeah, we'll see whether Cardred can go back and pick up the items that he wants to. Actually opting in for a Spirit Visage first pickup because, of course, he is against a lot of magic damage in this double AP comp. But probably wants to get that Frozen Heart ASAP as well, just because that cooldown reduction is so good. And just having flat resists on Scion, considering the fact that his passive will naturally give you health, is just a really good idea, because effective health is the aim of the game for these tanks.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's a very good pickup. The cooldown reduction will help him get that extra spell rotation out in team fights. He wants to move towards 40% CDI because, again, probably not going to be a lot of damage to speak of, but a lot of utility in his spells. So cooldown reduction, tankiness, and natural tankiness, all what we really associate with Scion.
Yeah, Kensti doing a great job clearing out these creeps. Now has an 8 CS advantage as Johnny gets caught by a bit of a charm there in the river, but Choo-Choo's not going to be able to go for any kills here as the Dark Binding goes wide.
12-minute Rod of Ages was the timing for Kassadin.
My goodness.
So Kensti definitely on form. 22 minutes, he will be significantly stronger than he is right now. So we'll just like that to stack up. He's not in a rush for any sort of fights. Probably won't be able to choose, though, because in a minute we will see Dragon coming up. Avant will want to double down, pick up that second Dragon, work their way towards the third. But with the stacking item compared to the completed items on Legacy's side, maybe the items will throw a curveball into the mix.
Yeah, well, that's true. And 20% CDR for that Morellonomicon here as well for Choo-Choo's. Doesn't have his blue buff back just yet as he looks for that Orb of Deception onto Kensti. Going down in mana here just a little bit because that, of course, has been increased in cost just a little bit.
We didn't mention at all Atlas, but the top turret has fallen down just to Kardrid's pressure. So there's actually the first turret on the board for Kardrid and for Legacy. So they will be able to push in aggressive. They have more choices regarding wave control. Of course, they are able to push the wave out further and get more and more information. Maybe that will open up some roams into the enemy red buff and to contest that objective, but the teleport's coming through.
Yeah, there's a teleport from Porky. Wants to get this equalizer down. Johnny, though, getting focused. Carbon going to get that kill. There's the equalizer right on top of Choo Choo's, who's forced to flash Missouri in the backline. Ejim not going to be able to stun him up just yet, as that Valkyrie was beautiful. And Choo Choo's falls down. Ejim as well. 2 for 1 here for Avant Garde, and they have control of this area if Chelby doesn't get caught. Kensti quite low here as well, as Kardrid going to charge up that Q. You can see taken no damage. Perfect play from Avant Garde, ignoring the Scion.
And you can see the Scion and the Udyr, the two ignorable champions, were ignored. All the carries fell down. You need to be fighting around your carries, Legacy. All these two hyper tank picks, they just don't pay off. Avant, they overstay in terms of doing damage to this mid turret. I don't know if they're healthy enough to pick up the dragon.
Yeah, and Kardrid, of course, at full health. Tallywacker finally coming into this fight. He wasn't there. That was a 4v5 situation, which Legacy are going to feel okay about because, of course, it didn't go horribly wrong. Avant Garde now tanking up this dragon. They're losing health as that boomerang going to find Missouri there. Scrying Orb going to be used. Dragon now down to half health. Carbon wanting to come in and try and do something here as the Valkyrie's used. Of course, no equalizer for this next fight. Legacy might now have control of this dragon, but it's reset one more time. We've got take 2 for this dragon approach, and we'll see whether Avant Garde want to try and do something because, of course, Carbon so low. Kardrid losing health here a little bit as Choo Choo's trying to use the fact that he's still healthy to zone out the members of Avant Garde, and it's going to be successful.
It's the mana bars that are even more of a concern for Avant than the health bars. If they had stuck around, they could maybe have bought enough time for Porky's equalizer to come back. It's about 5 seconds away at this point. But the mana bar, specifically Maz, had no mana on the Corki, so smart to back away. It evens up the dragon. Kensi was able to pick up his blue buff, significant for the Castan to have a bit of wave clear against Ahri, and everything resets now. And on the whole, apart from the global gold from the turret, things are very even.
Yeah, and Choo Choo's going for that standard Abyssal Scepter second item. Of course, now with the changes to Ahri, you've mentioned this a couple of times, able to actually have everything in range for that Abyssal Scepter to work.
Yeah, with the shorter range in 5.3, basically all of her abilities, barring the max range Q, are going to proc the Abyssal Scepter. So it's a wonderful pickup. You already get into fairly close range using the Spirit Rush anyway, so it's good and smart to have a bit of extra resist. You know, combine the Abyssal with that Zhonya's, so you're able to get in the front, not explode yourself, and do massive damage to the backline.
Yeah, and Carbon going for a different option here. Not going to get that Trinity Force. I'm disappointed, Carbon, because I very much enjoyed you being that split push Rek'Sai in the last game, but going to go for possibly a Spirit Visage to tie in with that Turtle stance, give him a little bit more health back, but maybe even that Banshee's Veil just to stop a bit of the upfront CC to come through from Avant Garde.
And no offensive options whatsoever. That probably suggests that he won't be looking to split push in the late game. If there was a Trinity Force, he could still have been used as a viable split push. Of course, so much AoE wave clear with the Phoenix stance. But he's going full tank. He is maxing the Phoenix stance and the Turtle. That suggests to me, going to be looking at just a lot of team fight.
Yeah, on the hunt actually going to be blown here as Ejim just flashes on top of Missouri. So much CC here as well as Porky teleports in. There's the equalizer. Tallywhacker's going to die. The equalizer was beautifully placed as Porky just going to try and burn Ejim to the ground. He gets silenced. These auto attacks doing a lot of damage, but he gets stunned underneath the tower. My goodness, Leona takes a lot of killing.
Absolutely, guys. So many tanky stats once she pops a W, but does fall down eventually. Porky gets 2 kills. He's gone for perhaps the most equalizer-centric build of all, rushing the Liandry's Tormentor combined with his Sorcerer's Shoes. The equalizer will be doing massive damage, but definitely no Zhonya's, no stasis available to him just yet.
Yeah, but of course, Porky has been landing these equalizers beautifully in these fights. I understand why he'd want to really invest into it because it's been beautiful so far. You may as well just continue that focus. Kensti now going to respond to Kardrid, who's just relentlessly pushing across this map. Now to go for that Warden's Mail, and we'll see whether he turns that into a Frozen Heart or maybe even a Randuin's first up.
Credit to Carbon, though, understanding that there's no way that Avant have enough members to commit to defending this red buff. Has stolen away the buff. This is the pressure of Udyr. Has so much ability to clear camps fast, so quick and so difficult to kill. You can't pin him down, so he's going to get in your jungle and nick all your stuff.
Yeah, just stealing things is Carbon, and it makes sense here as well. Able to catch up here. Of course, Chelby having an early advantage because he farmed out a little bit longer. And Carbon going to find Johnny here as well as Missouri tries to do some damage, but Carbon pretty tanky now with that Spectre's Cowl.
Yeah, the Roar coming through, doing quite a lot of damage as Tallywacker finally going to DPS down this outer turret. Legacy, they were able to out-rotate Rich Gang last game. They've done the same thing here. 3 turrets to 1 actually puts them slightly ahead in goal despite a kill disparity and even some CS disparity for Avant.
Yeah, actually. Skillshot's going to be traded here. Johnny winning out on that one as EGM just going to destroy a ward in his frustration. Shelby continuing to just hang around his own jungle. Legacy, they're looking for the picks at this stage. Of course, they've got this fantastic pick comp with the Charms, the Zenith Blades, all of EGM's CC in their arsenal, and with Carbon there as well. I mean, it's not really a skill shot, but he has to get in there to get something done. So a face check, that'd be pretty good.
See, the first stun will be chained up by so many. That's not even talking about Cardred and Carbon being able to do a lot of CCing, especially from that melee range. So
yeah,
the CC continues, and Johnny, of course, can only make one person CC resistant. And to be honest, you throw that back shield onto Maz. If they just lead with the Q coming through from Ari, that'll just burst through the Orb of Deception from a support, and the stuns will continue. So Avant, they really need Kenzie to be a frontliner. He's actually going to find Tallywacker, stops the back in the bottom lane.
Actually, Tallywacker wanting to go aggressive here just a little bit, but Kenzie going to Rift Walk out of the way. I would have thought that, you know, Kenzie probably wanted to pick that fight, but not this time.
Not this time. The Rift Walk, defensive Rift Walk's interesting, but you look at the timer, 8 stacks, going to be 10 stacks at 22 minutes was the time when we spoke about. He's just trying to power up. He's sitting on quite a bit of gold. I believe he has enough for the Zhonya's. At this Dragon fight, it's going to be massive. He's going to be so close to the 10 stacks. Zhonya's completed. This is a massive Kassadin for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's the perfect time to hit that spike as well as a minute for the next Dragon. Looking scary here for the members of Legacy because this was the downtime for Avant Garde. I mean, of course, Porky and Shelby always going to be relevant. Missouri picking up the Sorcerer's Shoes and the Trinity Force are great, but having Kenzie sort of still waiting for that Zhonya's Hourglass, still waiting for the stacks on his Rod of Ages, now having that completed, Avant Garde probably looking to make some moves around this map. You can see Legacy have managed to pull out a bit of an advantage as far as this gold's concerned, purely because that outer ring of turrets is dead. But if Avant Garde put on the pressure, they'll close that gap so quickly.
And they have a Corki who has the mid-game, the 2 big mid-game items, the Trinity Force, the Sorcerer's Shoes. They haven't been able to put down the turret pressure yet, but as you mentioned, they have so much turret damage, and EGM, he's in trouble.
Yeah, EGM actually throws out the Solar Flare there as well, just wants to get some follow-up from his team. It's happy if he's tanking here as Choo-Choo's. He's going to get caught by the Cataclysm, but manages to get out. That Cataclysm actually working out quite well here for Legacy as Porky comes around, but you can see the kills are coming left, right, and center. Choo-Choo's going to get collapsed on, and Kenzie going for the cleanup as the double kill comes in, and now Cardred, the only man alive. The flash into the mist Dark Finding was a bit embarrassing from Johnny, but Cardred, it's going to take a while, but he's going to die.
And of course, he'll come back with the passive. So can you ever really keep Sion down? He runs in, he's going to die. Let's be real. He's dead. This is undead Sion coming through. They still have, you have to say though, not really a lot of dragon damage. No smite available, no AD carry. They're not even going to pick up a big objective after killing that Sion.
Yeah, and that was such a messy fight here as well. I mean, Shelby got his Cataclysm down in a position that really locked members up, but Porky took a long time to get to that fight.
But Kenzie, he was the real star. He's the crown jewel of this comp from Avant. And when you talk about messy fights against a Kassadin, already overtuned in items, 10 stack Rod of Ages, Zhonya's Sorcerer's Shoes, he's got everything going for him. And he was getting huge assassinations. He took out Tallywacker just solo. And Legacy, they need to be so careful and work around the power of this Kassadin.
Yeah, and the power of this Porky Rumble here as well. 7, 1, and 2 now with Leandries and that Zhonya's Hourglass at the same time. I mean, he's behind in farm, but he doesn't care. He's killing champions.
Absolutely, and you can see how the maps and this game is played out is that everything's been pushing aggressively, and Legacy have a big vision advantage. They just really can't take a team fight, especially right now against what Avant's putting out. So much damage, so much magic damage. No Aegis completed to really answer that. Though they're going to double down on structures. They want to swap for this mid turret.
Yeah, look at the equalizer to come through, but it doesn't really matter. Porky actually going to just go the golden flamethrower route as he might get caught out, gets stunned up as well. Solar Flare lands on a Porky. He finally dies. Kenzie going to Zhonya's up. The charm lands from Choo-Choo's as he tries to get the damage down, but you can see, oh, the Orb of Deception. No, my goodness, that Ignite just not enough as Missouri now has to deal with Cardred coming into him. Carbon actually running away very effectively. Kenzie turns around and comes in. Now Cardred with some damage as he runs around in his death-defying form, but Legacy just going to melt in front of AV.
Even after a very messy engage where the top and mid laner engaged before the rest of the team was ready, you see how strong Avant is and how smart Kensty's use of the Riftwalk was in that fight. Of course, Kassadin has to be so careful with his use of mana now that the mana costs get really crippling after the 3rd or 4th mark, but he opened up so much space, was still able to do damage to the back line even after he'd been chunked out. Kensty's Kassadin, definitely by far his strongest champion.
Yeah, very, very scary. Missouri going to move around and just pick off this outer turret in the top lane, easy as you like. Still half health. Avant Garde going to be able to pick up another objective, so mid and top going to be taken down. Haven't answered the turrets completely from Legacy, who managed to get that middle lane in a turret. And they still have some wards on the map, but you can see Avant Garde, they've now got complete vision control across everywhere.
Yeah, the moment they answered the massive turret discrepancy they were in, the kills shine through, the CS shines through. 4,000 gold is the advantage, and that's 4,000 gold with a late game Kassadin that's ready to go, ready to fight, working towards the void stuff you'd have to think to ensure that he's chunking both the front line and the back line. And Porky's Rumble, you mentioned it. That wasn't even an equalizer that decided to fight. That was an equalizer to buy time for his team. If they get the right combination of timings, if we see the Rumble Javanard ultimate they pick for, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, Choo Choo's going to use that ultimate. That Dark Binding was wonderful as Choo Choo's gets blown up by Corky and Kensty. And my good, Porky and Kensty, sorry. Corky wasn't actually there as Missouri just going to be hanging out here by the river. And is this going to be Avant Garde starting the Baron? It is.
Corky, Porky, Kensty, Junie, and Shelby. Not really confusing at all coming through from Avant. But what is going to happen is going to get so much Baron damage in. There's a lot of poke and engage coming through from Legacy. They have very hard engage. So it's going to be hard to DPS down this Baron.
Yeah, Cardred actually trying to be a nuisance here as well as Carbon's right in the mix. The Soul Shackle's onto Ejim, but that's the only member. Missouri going to use that heal as Kensty might get blown up. He does manage to get a kill for it as Porky now managing to rip through these members of Legacy. They've got 3 members alive. It's a 1 for 2 so far as Chelby's so incredibly low. This Avant Garde lineup are team fighting beautifully today as Choo Choo's, he's still coming back from base.
Yeah, Legacy just trying to buy time, just trying to get Avant away from the Baron. They'll be successful on that. So look, it's not really ideal to pad the stats. 21-8 is the kill score in this game. Not ideal, but at least they keep the Baron up as an objective to be competed for.
Yeah, and actually Choo Choo's going to just continue to push out this mid lane here as well. Knows that Kensty's not going to be coming around to jump into him. And they've got a huge wave there on the bottom side as well. So Tallywhacker going to do some decent work clearing that one out. Now has the Phantom Dancer as well as the Infinity Edge. Now with sort of the old Infinity Edge crit potential as it was transferred to that Phantom Dancer.
But the double Void Staffs are completed for Avant. And even though they're very, very tanky, it's not 40 minutes Sion yet. He still is dying relatively quickly. And Udyr, I mean, the Udyr pick hasn't paid off. We haven't seen aggressive Udyr coming out from Carbon. He left Shelby to just farm his jungle happily. Didn't really put any pressure on the enemy jungle, barring stealing out a couple of buffs to answer global pressure coming through from Shelby's ganks. And in these team fights, you know, in reality, he's Udyr. He's able to get a couple of rounds of CC in the middle of a fight, doesn't do a lot of damage, and he's just dying to all the AoE coming out from Kensty and Porky.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too much here to deal with on the side of Avant Garde, and Porky's just so huge on this Rumble. It's just ridiculous.
I believe he has the most gold in his team. He does, and that's a big thing to say when we've mentioned Kensty's name so many times, but 300 gold ahead of Kensty on a champion who's notorious for having a terrible time farming.
Yeah.
He's keeping in touching distance farm-wise, but it's the kills. 11 kills. You know, 3 more kills than a Legacy has as a team. He is massive on the Rumble.
Yep, so incredibly huge, and yet to demonstrate quite the damage potential of this Void Staff Equalizer. Avant Garde are going to start off the Baron here, peel off pretty immediately because Legacy wanting to come round. The flash actually in response as Ejim tries to get to safety. It's dangerous being a support when you want to get that Baron vision down, and Avant Garde staying as a team, but they're not on the Baron anymore.
You can see Avant's issue is they only have that singular initiate. We said the same thing last series. It's all about Shelby going in. And if they don't find the picture perfect engage, they're backing away. Their only way to force a fight is to start Baron with Dragon still respawning. But they don't have the tanky members to be even able to tank it up. It's not Sion taking no damage from this Baron. They're getting chunked out from Baron. So you have to see Legacy. They're kind of playing a dangerous game. They're happy for Avant to start the Baron because they're confident that Avant have to peel off. It's only Chelby getting very, very tanky, you know, with the Warmogs and some magic-resistant armor in his pocket. He's getting there, but it's only Dragon they can realistically expect Avant to rush down. They can just play the waiting game, assume that Avant will have to back away whenever they show their face at Baron.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working out here. And you mentioned Chelby, 2-1-15. You're right, he has had so much participation in these fights. And we mentioned that Chelby was going to be a huge boon here for Avant Garde if he's playing well, and has been the showing as this inner turret's going down very low. Cardred split push getting scary. Does have the teleport here as well as Porky, more than able to clear this one out. Actually, that Flame Spitter doing a lot of work, but Avant Garde, they're just going to head down to Dragon, pick that one up. It's
the 3rd Dragon, so again, not a win condition just yet. They're not working towards the 5th Dragon for at least another 12 minutes. Choo-Choo's, he's overextended. Kenzie's got a large burst of damage on him already.
Yeah, Porky and Cardred are going to continue fighting here in the top lane, but you have to think this is the mid lane is where a lot of the action is going down, but Porky actually might be able to pick up a kill. There's the Unstoppable Onslaught, blocked by the flash of Porky. That was beautiful. The teleport out from Cardred, and I don't think he can burst down a Scion.
Actually, a favorable summoner trade for Cardred, you'd have to say, swapping teleport for Porky's flash. It was a very smart adjustment to flash in front of the Unstoppable Onslaught. Wasn't able to pick up the exit kill, but guess what? Cardred's gone, and so's Baron.
Yeah, Baron is just going to die here to Avant Garde. They're all going to use their empowered recalls and get back to base. And with that teleport down, Avant Garde were no longer scared.
That was, you have to say the flash for a teleport, not that good. The flash for a teleport and Baron, it's all right.
All planned here from Porky, sorry. Beautiful play. Porky, Corky, Porky, Dorky, Dorky. I think that's why Missouri actually changed his name to Maz here as well. Just didn't want to have another E on the end of an Avant Garde name here as well, because Kensti, Chelby, Porky, Johnny, Missouri.
I've tried that one already. It's confusing.
It is difficult. I'm not going to lie. My goodness. But Rabbidan's Deathcap has been finished by Choo-Choo's. He's got a 3-item power spike to his own name as well. Kensti's still looking for that needlessly large rod portion of that hat.
But you can see what Choo-Choo's has had to do. He understands that, okay, Zhonya's is probably the smarter choice in terms of living in these fights, but he just needs a pick. He needs to get a pick and to halt momentum. He doesn't actually have the freedom to go a more defensive-orientated item. He needs to pick up the Death Cap, because if he's not getting the deletion on a member, they've already shown they cannot win 5v5 team fights.
Oh, no. And that Boomerang just going to come through and try and save a ward, but it's not going to happen at this stage. Blade of the Ruined King from Missouri has been completed, looking for that last Whisper as his next item, you have to think. Carbon does have a Sightstone for himself, going towards a Randuin's Omen, you have to think, as his next item, as that Ruby Crystal can now build into the Giant's Belt. And Legacy trying to defend this inner turret. Cardred and Carbon pretty tanky here in the front line, but Cardred still taking so much burst.
Now you're saying pretty tanky. Cardred, it is a 32-minute Scion, but there's so much damage on Avant's side that he's deceptively squishy.
Yeah, Kenzie actually going to Rift Walk out there and use his Zhonya's a little bit unnecessarily. This might mean that Legacy can find something. Chelby gets caught by a Charm. Carbon in that front line just getting chunked. Every opportunity that Avant Garde have, they're able to do the damage to Legacy, and they'll take the inner turret and rotate around for the next.
Yeah, the use of Zhonya's, as you mentioned, by accident there, would definitely have taken away from a potential turret dive. It looked like they were positioning for it. They called it off, so at least the communication was on point about that mistake. They don't get the exit kills, but they get destruction. And at the end of the game, at the end of the day even, League of Legends is a game of structures. You take down that Nexus, you win the game.
Yeah, it's about killing the Nexus, so of course being able to get closer to it, probably a good idea here for Avant Garde, as they're going to continue the pressure here towards the top side. Missouri using this Sheen proc so incredibly well. The tower's going to die. Cardred gets caught up here as well. There's the equalizer, not going to do too much, as Carbon just going to flash out of that Cataclysm as well. Choo-Choo's, that's one round of spells from Kensti, and he's almost dead.
Yeah, Kensti's so strong. Smart to go for the early Void Staff against a double tank lineup. We've seen a lot more 4-carry, 5-carry lineups coming out, but with double tank, go for that Void Staff, still doing damage to the front line. And again, it's the fact that Cardred and Carbon can't tank the damage from the double AP. That's the big issue for Legacy.
Yeah, Carbon actually getting chunked out here as well. Avant Garde wanting to go for that tower, but it is going to be Kensti picking it up with the Rift Walk. He does die for it though, as probably wishes that he had the opportunity to use a Zhonya's Hourglass. Choo-Choo's gets slowed down to high heaven from all of the poke coming through from those harpoons, and the successful disengage, but every inner turret now dead for Avant Garde, and they've got a huge lead. 9,000 at 33 minutes.
It was smart of Chuchus to keep going aggressively, even as he started to get chunked out by Maz, because Maz actually used the last of his mana, putting down the phosphorus bomb, completely out of mana, no way to answer any of the pressure. So Legacy, they at least get their waves pushing, so at least buying themselves time, but I don't know if there ever will be a situation where Porky and Kenzie aren't able to get through the front line, just because they're doing so much damage. The death cap is coming through next from Porky. We do not often get to talk about Rumble death caps. He never often hits that item timing this early at 35 minutes, but again, in terms of gold, still, I mean, 200 gold behind Kenzie, but still massively overtuned for a top Rumble.
Yeah, and I mean, you often see the likes of Rumble building something like a Riley, something to keep him tanky, because of course it's not this far ahead that you find yourself on a Rumble, but this time that's what's happening. Carbon is going to use that ward, but it is going to get spot out almost immediately. Has decided to go for the Banshee's Veil option.
I mean, Carbon's been forced to get selfish stats because we've already mentioned he's dying in the front line. He couldn't afford to go Aegis because he needs to be a frontline tank, so does Kardred. But that means no Aegis against the strongest Rumble we've seen in many a month, so overtuned for damage. This Equalizer is literally going to rip Legacy apart.
Oh, yeah, and we've seen it time and time again, and it's going to take almost a catastrophe for Avant Garde to really lose these fights, because if that Equalizer goes down in a spot that's not going to help them, that might be dangerous, but of course we saw that in the last fight, and Avant Garde still managed to come out ahead.
Kardred's trying to just create map pressure. He's trying to split push. He understands team fighting not going to be any fun for Legacy at this point, so he's just trying to push, and he probably will finally get this top turret after being delayed for so long. He's going to go for the brute force method, happily take down this turret. Carbon's top as well. They're hard committing to the push.
Yeah, of course, not going to be able to do anything about this dragon. It is going to be the fourth one going down here for Avant Garde, wanting to make sure they solidify the opportunity for a fifth dragon if they can. Inner turret in response here for Legacy, and it's probably the best that they could hope for here.
Absolutely. This is the only trade they could realistically go for. A bit of global gold for what was always going to be a formulaic fourth dragon for Avant. There's no way they could look to contest. And it doesn't look like it's going to get better short of the fifth dragon. The fifth dragon's only 6 minutes away, and I don't think there's a big item purchase that can come through. The Aegis for Carbon, okay, that's helping, but he needs selfish stats, to be honest. He needs to be at the front, forcing the Equalizer to be used upon him rather than getting to the backline, because if this backline falls down, Maz is going to get in there, Kenzie's going to get in there, Aegis isn't going to matter.
Yeah, Tallywacker, though, I mean, does have the Vampiric Scepter onto that trinity of fantastic items here for Sivir to really allow her to cut down tanky members. Chelby going to struggle, although he's got a Thornmail now, so I take it all back.
Yeah, I mean, not the best at taking down the front line, not the best tank buster as Sivir. She's okay. She's probably better than the Trinity Force users, but you know, she does struggle to get through those frontline tanks. And Shelby, he's doing it for his team. It's a very cost-effective tank build. 2,500 gold for that Warmonks. Getting the Thornmail for, I believe, 2,280 gold. It's not the random ones. He doesn't have the slowing effect, but there's so much CC from his kit and the other members of Avant. Just go for those selfish stats. Just get that Thornmail. So that if Tallywack is just free-hitting Shelby, he'll at least last quite a long time.
Yeah, no, that's true. And Scrying Orb's going to be used here from Legacy just to spot out this Baron. Of course, it is just spawning now. Kardred continuing the split push, has the teleport available, and Avant Garde, they're just going to start this one up straight away. Look at it just burn down this Baron all too easy. We'll see whether the steal might come in. Oh my goodness, that solar flare was fantastic, but Carbon just gets torn apart. Look at the Equalizer under multiple members. Ejim incidentally dies. Tallywacker gonna fall down here as well, as Chelby is all the way in the front line. Scion melts like butter, and Choo-Choo's manages to get the charm. Kenstie's gonna die. Choo-Choo's does answer for one, but he's the only one alive. And they trade the mid laners in the other direction, but Avant Garde, that's 4 for 1.
You built up Porky's Equalizer, and it's shown for a second time. Just picture perfect, completely splitting apart Legacy's escape route. There was nothing they can do. Choo-Choo's alive. He's got assassination potential. He's got wave clear. It doesn't matter against 4 members. They're going to lose their inhibitor at minimum, and Avant played that team fight out perfectly.
Yeah, they are going to back off here. I thought that they might go for a victory, but of course, with Ejim just respawning Carbon not far behind, it might have been a tough ask. But only one inhibitor down. This does give Legacy something to hang on to this game, but 10,000 gold, it's still the gap.
I like that Morgana's taking it on her own back here. Juni's trying to realize, okay, maybe I need to be the initiator. Righteous Glory, and the Talisman. That's already a lot of movement speed.
My goodness.
Feels like a double Shirelia's from back in the day. But also going for the Zhonya's just to be able to get into the middle of the team fight, activate the Soul Shackles, go into stasis. It's only Chelby as a front line, but Johnny, she's doing her darndest just to get in there, the Morgana, and be that tanky front line.
Yeah, Porky actually going to face check here, though, but look at how deceptively tanky he is. There's the Solar Flare onto him, but he's only taken half of his health. Choo-Choo's, there's the Equalizer to come down as Choo-Choo's is looking for the kill. That Kensty's there. Carbon just getting chunked by the AV members. There's the Cataclysm as Kensty picks up Choo-Choo's. Porky just going to back. His work is done as Missouri just going to slow down Cartridge with that Blade of the Ruin King. Carbon running for his life as Kensty. He flashes for the double kill. Tallywhacker completely out of position. Phosphorus Bomb, triple kill now for Kensty as Cardred gonna fall down to Porky's damage, and Ejim just wanders back to base. He's like, team, why? Where are you going?
And this is the Kensty we've been waiting to step up all season long. Finally, he gets his hands on the Kassadin, and the massacre in front of him, the high kill participation, 9-4 and 15. We've talked about Porky, but Kensty's Kassadin, you must ban this champion against Kensty, at least until 5.4 when we see massive changes come through to that Kassadin.
Yeah, and Porky's Rumble as well has just been so good. Always has in the past been a fantastic champion for Porky, but this time around, I have to say I haven't seen a performance like this. As Solar Flare's going to come through. Ejim, valiant defense to come down from this Leona, but these Nexus turrets are melting. The Nexus gonna do the same, and that is game for Avant Garde, tying up their record with Legacy.
Absolutely, a massive win for Avant Garde. They get the revenge for their earlier loss, and of course solidify that big victory last year. It wasn't a fluke. They pull off a great strategic display here. Their team fighting was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, and of course Porky was always known for his team fighting prowess. Last time these teams faced off, it was with Bad Game LOL, who didn't quite have as much synergy with the team, and we've got a replay to come up, and let's just hope that there's an equalizer in here to demonstrate Porky's power.
There was multiple equalizers this game. A lot of them were picture perfect. I know for a fact the one here was, so we'll roll the tape. This is it, Baron. This is the time when they are able to DPS Baron. You see the ward comes in so too late, so watch for the equalizer from Porky. Where are you going to go? There's no way to get away from that equalizer. Only Tallywhacker was able to get off, and he was so low that he died anyway, and then the pile comes in. Kensty has all the mobility of a late game Kassadin. He will fall to Choo-Choo's, but 4 members die instantly there for Legacy, and that was the game for Avant.
Yeah, beautifully played by Avant Garde, and I just don't think you can let Kensty get that Kassadin, because we've just seen that is so scary. Of course, 5.4 going to change him just a little bit. We'll see whether Kensty is going to be one of the players that decides to remain a Kassadin player.
The return of Porky to the lineup also, now Rumble becomes a priority ban for Avant. Avant, they had a very rough start to the season. This is the back half. They're starting to pick up a couple of wins. They're getting Porky settled in the team. Suddenly the bans and priority changes. Maybe Kensty will be able to get onto his better champions, really push his way up there in terms of the mid laners, and just create an impact for himself. Because on Kassadin at least, he looks world class. Yeah, Avant Garde looking fantastic, but we are going to be having another matchup coming up very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Rich Gang looking to bounce back after